You're listening to a Comics XF podcast.
X-Men. Get it!
Hey everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Battle of the Atom. This is your weekly X-Men podcast where we rank every story, and we truly mean every story, regardless of how much we don't want to, from A to Z.
I'm Adam.
And I am the bad boy of X-Men podcasting, co-host of the best X-Men podcast out there, a person CB Cebulski once called one of Marvel's best fans.
On the street, no less.
On the streets of New York City.
It's true.
And I'm a werewolf wearing the skin of a guy named Zach. I'm Zach.
Nice. Oh, good. I'm glad you got that back in there. Zach, I really think we're proving our bona fides this week by that we're the best X-Men podcast with this episode, because we are trying something really interesting this week,
folks,
based on a recommendation.
The amount of nervous and the amount of having to talk to Adam about how I would be on my best behavior, the amount of everything as we've been preparing for this has been more effort than we normally put into a podcast.
I did spend an inordinate amount of lunch break on Wikipedia today, just looking stuff up. I was just looking stuff up.
Folks, I've got to be clear as we start this episode. We are not just like, you've seen the album art. Let's just get it out of the way. We're not doing a 9/11 episode. I want to be it's so important that we distinguish what we're doing from what we're not doing. And if we were doing a 9/11 episode, for example, the album art would have been a parody of Amazing Spider-Man 36, but with our logo instead of the Amazing Spider-Man logo. Instead, we are simply talking about, and Adam, I think you phrased it really succinctly. So I'd like you to just deliver your phrasing of exactly and very specifically what we're talking about in this episode and nothing else.
Okay, so we did get a request from. I know you like to say this in a certain way.
Oh, you mean Patreon supporter Robert?
Robert.
Patreon supporter Robert did go over to patreon.com/Battle of the Atom, reached deep down into their hearts and pocketbooks, and tossed a couple of coins into our coffers. And Robert did request the Spider-Man X-Force crossover Sabotage,
yes,
which has implications for what else we can talk about.
Yes, so
there's an elephant in the room when you're talking about that specific comic crossover,
and we're gonna get into it. But essentially, what we did in terms of choosing the stories this week these are not reaction comics to 9/11. Okay,
so important that none of these comics are within a decade of 9/11.
No, two of them are from 1985, and the other three are from 1991, I believe.
Literally a decade beforehand.
Right. But all three of these comics will involve the destruction of the Twin Towers as part of their stories. So the theme of this week is X stories from the mid 80s and the early 90s that incorporate the bravado, the chip on our shoulder, the idea that the frankly incomprehensible idea that anything actually bad could ever happen to the Twin Towers. And so comic creators felt comfortable doing it in their comics.
It's like when Cloverfield happened and they took the head off the Statue of Liberty, or like when Escape from New York happened and they took the head off of the Statue of Liberty, or all of the other times that they did that. This was the second idea that you would have about New York City.
Yeah. So if you read any of these stories, you are already aware of, this is what I was looking at in my lunch break, the dozens of pop culture things, film, television, cartoons. This is very much the Simpsons predicted it kind of situation, where different kinds of media did like damage to these buildings far before anything actually happened to the real buildings.
Because here's the thing that I barely understand, and people who are younger than me, like, I barely understand this. My sister really barely understands this, who's a couple of years younger than me. If you are like 3 or 4 years younger, then oh my gosh, what I'm about to say hurts me psychically, and I know that's just the march of time. If you're under 30,
yes,
you probably have a really hard time understanding the scope of what 9/11 was. And we're not getting too deep into this, but like, I was a 10-year-old kid, and I feel pretty safe to say that there was a before and an after on that day that I recognized at 10. And I feel like for most people, you can kind of put right there and say, yep, that's the changing point. That's the inflection point of the rest of our lives.
Well, I know you checked this out, and I would recommend this. There was a really good podcast recently aired on the Big Pictures feed. They're a movie podcast, but they did a whole thing called Mission Accomplished about the aughts and sort of the influence of what was happening in that decade on film. That kind of gives you an idea of the national mood, right? But
just so folks who weren't aware know, national mood, bad.
Very bad.
The national mood was, I wish it was the worst I've ever been around, but like up there.
But let me just say before we advertise the Patreon?
We'll advertise it again at the end. You guys know about the Patreon. Go on the Patreon. It's a short list.
Yeah. You can make crazy recommendations and have us make like crazy conversations. I mean, that's how it works.
I want to be so clear to Patreon supporter Robert. Robert did not request a 9/11 episode.
No, and that's why we're not doing one, but we are talking about it in the context.
My first reaction is, oh, so what, Robert? You want me and Adam to talk about 9/11 for an hour? Is that what you're asking? Because it's gonna. How do we square the circle, Robert?
Here's what I will say, is that of all of the weirdest little thoughts that went through some people's heads on that awful day, which, was just the 24th anniversary, before this episode is coming out, there's gotta be so many comics readers of the 90s that were probably sitting there that day going, hey, isn't that what happened in X-Force when I was a kid? Because this first story is called Sabotage. It is a crossover between the newly started X-Force by Rob Liefeld and the now exiting Todd McFarlane from Spider-Man.
Was not the plan when they started this crossover. We'll get into that.
No. And, there is a trade paperback reprint of this that only publishes Sabotage Part 1 and 2, which is dumb because you really do need to read X-Force 3 to understand the story.
Right. Can I go back to one before we jump into this comic, which I'm very excited to do?
Please do.
Can I jump back to one comment that you just made about, of all the thoughts that people had on that day?
Sure.
Can I get something off my chest?
Please.
I've been keeping this. I don't even think my wife knows of this, and I don't think anyone in my family has thought about this since.
Okay. Yeah.
I want to be so clear. I lived in Ohio. New York was a place on TV. I was 10 years old. We had not gone through in our social studies, hey, what's the current geopolitical climate like?
Sure.
We hadn't done any of that. Again, I was 10.
Yeah. You're a kid.
So when I found out, my first thought, and this is not a joke, was, Oh no, the Nazis do it?
Oh, okay.
I thought, are the Germans back?
Hmm.
I was wrong.
Oof.
Very legitimately first thought that came to my head. And I have thought about it to this day. I was like, that was one of the dumbest things. Like, I have to imagine my grandmother who's sitting here trying not to over-explain what's happened and why Pokemon is not on the WB today. And when I turned on the WB, I saw someone running through a subway in chaos, and I was very confused.
Yeah.
Again, that's when Pokemon was on. When I got home from school, I watched an hour of Pokemon. Luckily, I believe Nickelodeon had made the choice not to preempt their standard broadcasting.
Yeah.
But she did have to explain that before my mom could get there and like fully give me the scoop about what was going on. They didn't tell us at school. It was a weird choice, but everyone was going through a lot that day. I can't imagine what my grandmother's thinking. She's like, what? No. What? The German? Because my grandmother was born after World War II, so for her, she's like, no, that's not.
Oh,
We are going conserve right now.
Wow. I don't even know how to react to that. That's amazing. But I do think that these stories are really interesting because
interesting word.
When you're a comics writer who is trying to up the stakes and make things extreme and exciting and action packed, you really do. There's a time-honored tradition of like knocking down buildings and, collateral damage. These are not the only comics where this has happened. Damage Control #1, for instance, does involve the Twin Towers. We're not going to talk about that comic today, but busted up and then reassembled crooked as a joke, but this X-Force.
That's a good joke, Dwayne McDuffie. Good job, buddy.
Yeah. This X-Force crossover is utterly insane because it happens. It's published 2 years before the bombing of the parking lot.
Again, for folks who don't know,
that
was not the first attack on the World Trade Centers in a decade.
No, it was not.
They had a goal, and it was a very narrow and specific goal, and it worked. But they took a couple of shots at this thing.
Yes. So it is absolutely insane to go back to this comic book and see, of all the characters, our goofy gay friends, Black Tom and Juggernaut, taking Wall Street financiers, including Gideon and Sunspot, hostage inside one of the towers and proceeding to see Black Tom not only blow up the top. This is the part I forgot about. Everybody remembers the Juggernaut part.
Right.
I don't know if everybody remembers that Black Tom uses plastic explosives to blow up the top half of one of the towers. And then Juggernaut in the Spider-Man issue gets so riled up from fighting X-Force and Spider-Man that he literally runs into the building and collapses the entire second tower.
Black Thomas. What is your plan here? How is this going to help you unify the 6 counties?
Great question.
What do you do now? Hold on though, because on the other hand, Black Tommy and Juggernaut are both being like, you capitalist pigs, we must destroy your system, which isn't not the same motivation as Al-Qaeda.
Mm-hmm.
Not 100%, but not too far off. Also, Black Tom and Juggernaut are raising a few valid points about capitalism and its tragic effects.
Sure. I don't know that
I want to be so clear. They're doing this in a Rob Liefeld comic, so we're giving it so much more credit than it deserves.
Yes. This is very much a Rob Liefeld comic that has a lot of posing. It has a lot of, this is the pinup. These are the guys flooding out of it.
We'll get to this is a pinup idea
Yes.
in just a minute.
Well, yes, because of the gimmick of the Sabotage crossover as well. We haven't gotten to that part yet. But just that aspect of the story alone, that to up the stakes of what's happening in this story, that those two events happen as part of this story, it is really surreal to go back and read these comics. It's crazy.
It's weird. So the comic opens up on Siren. This is X-Force number 3. By the way, in case, again, I just assume that our listeners know certain facts, and maybe that's presumptuous of me.
Sure.
Co-written dialogue by Fabian Nicieza, who I've got to say, giving it his darndest.
He's trying his best.
Fabian Nicieza, along for the ride.
Yes.
Opens on Siren, who has not appeared in a while. In fact, for folks who like think of Siren as like a big X-Men character, or at least a good supporting player, it's not like Siren was in things before this.
No.
She was in Fallen Angels, which we love, but no one else does. I mean, there was supposed to be a Fallen Angels too, so I want to assume it was decently well read, but it wasn't the biggest thing. She debuts in Spider-Woman, which we've already talked about. She's been on Muir Island a little bit, but that's just because that's where they kept all of the mutants they weren't using at the time.
Yeah.
And then she shows up here because she learns that Black Tom and Juggernaut are going to bomb the World Trade Center, and she's like, "That
got to stop them.
I can't let that happen." So Cable's like, "Hey, you want to join our team now?" And she's like, "Absolutely."
And she's part of X-Force for the next however many issues.
100, literally 100 issues, Adam.
Yeah. I mean, Rob does know his X-Men. He knows who he wants to use, who he doesn't want to use. And
there were only so many at the time. I don't want to give Rob that much credit.
No, but he's been seeding this story for a couple of issues in the plotting. And I think it's really important to note that already we know that the Rob likes to take credit that like he lives, breathes, and dies like drawing comics. It's all he can barely go to the grocery store without drawing a comic. He likes to talk about how he just can't stop drawing comics. He's the Energizer Bunny.
That's wild news to the folks from that Brigade Kickstarter.
Yeah. And many of his other like unpublished but advertised work. I do think it's really interesting that by the time we get to this issue 3, he's already leaning on Eric Larson to ink some of his pages. That's interesting to me. Like, we're already at a point 3 issues in where this book, where you're supposed to be doing everything, you can't get it done. That's interesting. We should get to the gimmick though, because Sabotage, the 2 parts that come after X-Force 3, which are Spider-Man 16 and X-Force 4, have a very interesting idea, which is what, Zach?
They are horizontal comics. They are landscape orientation comics. Now, I would say many folks over the years have tried landscape comics. I would say most folks have failed so miserably that it is just a horrible way to do it. And part of that is because of the density of the pages. Like, they become very sparse because it's such a wide angle on everything. But normally you're focused on 1 or 2 characters in a frame or in a shot. Or I guess panel is the appropriate word for comics. I should know this.
Yes.
That it becomes a real challenge. Now, I have seen this work pretty well, but only in digital native comics. Only in comics where you are intending to read it on a screen first. What comes to mind specifically is some of the work that Marcos Martin did with Brian K. Vaughan for Panel Syndicate. I actually recently just read Private Eye and Barrier, which...
Great stuff.
Hey, folks, if you haven't read Barrier, it's for free, and it is super good. Like, also, hey, fun fact, I'm in Chicago right now. Uh, it's not a war zone, just to be so clear.
Great to know. Great
It's
to know.
super
think
not
it
a war
was.
zone, and I'm terrified that someone is going to come in and say that it is, and then exacerbate tensions while I'm trying to sell HVAC equipment. But what I will say is, for folks who have thoughts about ICE or thoughts about quote unquote the border crisis, you should read Barrier.
Okay.
It's a pretty solid comic that pretty much has a gimmick to it, but it's a good gimmick, and it's a gimmick that is thematically tied to the story they're telling. And I think that it is absolutely worth checking out. The gimmick, Adam, are you familiar with the comic?
I've read The Private Eye. I've not read Barrier. So.
Here's the gimmick about Barrier. The Barrier is a language barrier. Half the book's in Spanish, half of the book's in English.
Oh, okay.
And they work through that. And luckily, Marcos Martin's really good at comics. So,
well, and what you're pointing out is that there are certain artists who, regardless of the orientation of the page, have an innate design sense in terms of how to break down a story.
But one thing I will say.
Yes.
Those things are truly the worst thing ever to read physically. Like, Private Eye is a frustrating book to read physically.
I have the physical hardcover, and it's sideways.
Isn't it so annoying to read?
It's not that bad.
It's long. It's so long. You can't sit in a chair weird. Read it. It falls out of your hand. It's that 300 also is like that. I haven't read 300 in a while. Not going back to reading 300 in a little bit. I gotta be in the right mindset for 300, and part of that involves getting abs. So
I don't think you're missing anything there.
But if we're talking about 9/11 reactionary stuff,
I know.
The chokehold that 300 had on me at 15 and all of my friends.
It was a huge deal.
It was some of the dopest stuff ever. He kicked that guy into a hole. Take the politics out of it, which I know is impossible, but he did kick that guy into a hole.
Gerard Butler. That's the start of Jerry there. So these comics are sideways, and I think what you're alluding to is that, despite Rob and the Todd being the hottest artists, aside from Jim Lee on the comics planet at that time period, they leave a lot to be desired in terms of the way in which they story tell.
Yes.
These are flashy artists. The Rob is leaning very hard into poses and, action figure setups of his team versus the Juggernaut. A lot of times there's no background. It's very difficult to see where characters are, what they're supposed to be doing. And then you flip over to the Todd, who I would argue is a better artist, but he's clearly...
most people would argue that. That's not a controversial statement.
Here's what I'll say about it. Spider-Man 16. It looks like crap. He's definitely got one foot out the door. He's leaning really hard into his more caricature-esque faces. Every character is making these very goofy expressions throughout this issue that are not in conversation with what the Rob is doing with the characters. They're not even in conversation with what he was doing with his own characters on the Spider-Man solo book. It's very odd. So you get weird things like the Juggernaut having like this absolutely insane laugh after he knocks down the one trade center, and his tongue is floating in the middle of his mouth like he's a cartoon character.
It does
which
make
he is.
the events of this comic insane, but it has so much more in common with that manga Colossus versus Juggernaut fight than just about anything else out here.
Yeah.
Here's what folks may or may not know. One thing that happens in this issue is that Shaddy Buns stabs Juggernaut in the eye with a sword. Juggernaut gets better.
Now that was censored from its original version, correct?
Originally, you saw him stab him in the eye. In the version that has hit print, it is like a splash of blood, like a negative effect. And Todd was so frustrated about being censored
Mm-hmm.
that he walked off Spider-Man, his book that was The Todd Show.
Mm-hmm.
It was big seller. It was all him, and never went back to Marvel.
No,
All those other guys.
still hasn't.
Every other dude from the Image Exodus went back to Marvel at some point in time. Everyone said, okay, I'll, you know what, new everything. Todd never went
Nope.
back.
No, never did, never will. And, you know, he's a man of principles. The funny thing about that is that they were willing to censor that, you know, idea of a character getting stabbed in the eye, even though the character has, you know, a built-in healing power from the bands of Sidorak that allow him to just still have an eye in the next
He
panel.
stabbed his eyes, which again had to be Todd doing a joke, right? That was Todd
I'm
doing
sure.
a joke.
Yeah. Yeah. But yet you're still toppling the Twin Towers. So it's, you know, what's interesting about this as an artifact, and you see it if you know, what I was looking up today was all of those other pieces of media that have done something similar, you know, whether it's a video game, whether it's a movie, a film, a cartoon, where something happened to those buildings. You don't think, as you're making this comic, I don't think that the Rob or Todd would ever think that in real life this is going to happen. And that really is a testament to how permanent we thought some of these things were, and didn't realize that there was a fragility to them.
Well, and what I find interesting about that is you don't get things like people criticizing Man of Steel about, oh, Superman's not saving all those people in those buildings and there's all this destruction without 9/11 happening. Like, that's exactly what's happening. Like,
I mean, I think we might still take issue with the Superman that doesn't save people.
Well, okay, but hold on.
I know what you're saying, though.
But like, that was from a very pure film standpoint and like a writing standpoint, that was off-screen collateral damage that is implied, but not part of the narrative that they're telling, which is why it doesn't happen in that movie. And that's not to give Zack Snyder credit, which is a thing I've been doing in this episode a lot. Apparently,
second time.
Hey, Zach's got to stick together. I guess.
Yes.
I'm a Snyder bro now. Let's go.
Oh, no.
But don't isolate that clip and put it on socials. I don't want that. I don't need that heat. We're already so nervous about this episode.
We're doing great, Zach. Keep going.
We're doing great. But like, from a narrative standpoint, I get why Man of Steel doesn't take a second and say, and then also Superman went and saved all these people from all these buildings that weren't part of the narrative before this. But, because that's exactly what X-Force is doing. That's exactly what this comic and so many other pieces of media were doing. But you have a differentiating point in people's psyche and people's consciousness now, where they can't just look at this as collateral damage and the backup effects of what's going on. They can only see this as the lived tragedy that, you know, at minimum, a nation went through and made it the rest of the world's problem.
Yeah, so this is, I think, a really memorable but very poorly executed set of comics. I will say there's some interesting and fun coloring choices, especially on the second issue of X-Force. Some really radical, like purples and yellows and things. Cable is wearing the most insane spacesuit metal thing. Who knows what it is? It looks like he's a transformer.
So I noticed that very specifically during this comic. And what I think is that Rob is trying to draw even more parallels and even more confusion between Cable and Strife and lead readers to the implication that, maybe Strife is Cable. Maybe they aren't two separate people. Maybe he is Cable and this is all a ruse because he's wearing a less spiky Strife costume.
He does a fortune teller line later. He shoots Black Tom in the face. So yeah,
like it is doing that. By the way,
yes,
before he shoots Black Tom in the face, He has a line, and I have to blame my personal best friend Fabian Nicieza for this one. He has a line where he's like, well, you bet 660, Tom. That may be good enough for the minors, but you're in the big leagues now. Cable does not understand baseball.
No, that would be pretty good.
My oldest has started playing baseball, and I've had to remind him like several times, Bud, what's the batting average of the best players out there?
Yeah.
Like you getting struck out or some at the plate, or you not getting on base every time. That's normal in how the game works. You have to psychologically get that.
Yes.
I think Cable doesn't understand, because I tell you what, if Cable thinks that's good baseball, like if a 6.6 batting average is bad, then I want to know all of Cable's baseball playing friends, and I want to sign them to the Cincinnati Reds.
All right. I think it's time that we rank this comic.
Spider-Man does nothing in this, right? Like, I know it's a Spider-Man issue, but like he just kind of shows up and does some quips.
Yeah. He shoots some webs at Juggy.
He doesn't need to be here. He's there so Todd can draw it.
Yeah.
Good for Todd.
So, Zach, we're going to put this on our big old list. What is that?
Oh, so that's the thing. We have been ranking every X-Men comic since the dawn of time, or at least since 8 years ago, on a list from best to worst, starting with number 1, The House of X and the Powers of 10, and getting all the way down to the 1074th best X-Men comic, 2099 World of Tomorrow. Now, Adam, I'm thinking about this. Did you know that at number 250, we have Uncanny X-Men Volume 3, number 14, that Morph solo issue? And at number 500, we have Savage Avengers, The City of Sickles. And at 750, we have New Mutants 36, Subway to Salvation. That's a proto-Inferno story. And then at number 1000, we have X-Men Prelude to Perdition, a tie-in to a video game that I don't remember which video game it was for.
Yeah, I'm looking at the spreadsheet, but I'm glad you told our audience that because they can't see it.
They can't. The spreadsheets, I mean, it's online when I remember to update it.
Yeah.
I would say that this is probably not in the bottom 74 comics on this list.
No, but it's certainly not. We have the first 2 issues of X-Force up at 265. At 330.
First 2 issues are better than this.
Oh, way better. At 331, we have X-Force 31, which is the Siren, Black Tom, and Juggernaut issue. This is nowhere near as good as that.
Yeah.
I'm just keep going down and looking at other X-Force stuff that we have on this list.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Is this better or worse than the first arc of Uncanny X-Force? Hold on. The Sam Humphries Uncanny X-Force.
You're talking about volume 2.
Volume 2, Let It Bleed.
Yeah.
With the Demon Bear and Bishop?
That is at 787. I think we're closer to, at 853 is the Child's Play X-Force New Warriors crossover. I think this is better than that.
You agree this is worse than that issue, but better than Child's Play?
Yes. I think that's our range.
What was that number?
That's at 853.
Okay, which does put it above Kings of Pain.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's better than that.
This is worse than Apocalypse versus Dracula, 843.
Yeah. Okay, I'm looking at what else is in between here.
This is...
Yeah, go ahead.
At 847, we have The Blood of Apocalypse.
Oh, that's bad.
Above that, we have Poptopia.
This is better than both of those.
I would actually put it between those two, but that's a personal thing because I have a weird affection for Poptopia, a comic that I know is bad.
I'm okay with that. So this is going to be our new 847 X-Force Spider-Man Sabotage. If well, okay.
Yeah.
I know you planned it.
We have fun here. Next comic.
I just want to say, if you've never read Sabotage, it's an eyesore, but it's interesting.
I like that we have this separate section of the ranking of should you read this one? And the answer is on this one, absolutely you should read this one.
Yes. It's very much a B-level action movie with one of the most ridiculous set of scenes from a 90s comic. This next one, I think, has a little bit more promise. What is this one, Zach?
This is Uncanny X-Men 189, Two Girls Out to Have Fun, which just gals going out and having fun.
Sure.
This is written by Chris Claremont with pencils by John Romita Jr. And it opens up
by Steve Lealea, which I think adds an interesting flavor to the art.
That's a nice little sprinkle on top of your Romita Juniors.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
You did, but that's the show. Rachel Summers is hanging out with Magma for no particular reason.
Yeah.
Now, back, and this is getting into the deep lore of this podcast. Back before this was a podcast, when the Xavier Files Media Empire originally started on a lowly Tumblr blog. A lowly Tumblr blog. Interesting thing, I wasn't actually involved in Tumblr. I just started a blog there because that was where I could do a free blog.
Sure, we've been there.
We all understand this dynamic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I started with Rachel Summers, which I have to say, wild starting point. But I started with her because at the time I said she was the most average X-Men character, which is mean. That's a mean thing to say about Rachel, who I have more fondness of now a decade plus into this.
Sure.
But generally, I get where I was coming from. I cannot believe this is a story of Rachel Summers, Magma, the worst New Mutants character.
Yes.
Again, not counting Gossamer and Birdbrain. We all know this. Yeah. And Selene, who, God bless the Selene heads. Connor, you put it on your vision board and made it a reality that people like and care about Selene. And I love that. I hate Selene. We know this. I don't have anything for her. She's nothing to me. It's wild that this story is about those three.
It is absolutely insane. And I do recall when I did my first, complete run, through of the Claremont run, that when Rachel was introduced in this era, I remember really bumping up against that because by Rachel being inserted into the present, she introduces this very odd dynamic where we're getting away from our main characters in a way that made me just uncomfortable, just like irritated. I didn't want to read these side adventures about this very traumatized future refugee. For example, really the only scene aside from them coming in at the end of the book with the X-Men is them actually sending Storm off, who's lost her powers. She's going to retire from the X-Men.
She's going to go do a life death.
She's going to go do a life death. Now,
fun fact about life death. I'm sorry to divert.
Go for it.
My wife decided she wanted to get into puzzles, and to coax me into doing it.
Oh, I saw this.
She surprised me with a puzzle and said, "We're doing this now." And I said, "Oh no." And it was a 1,000-piece X-Men puzzle of a bunch of different covers, which was she realized the mistake because her and I spoke a different language then.
Oh, because you knew what you were putting together.
Because I could look at half of a piece and said, yeah, this goes to the Wendigo issue. This goes to Here Comes Tomorrow. This goes to Life Death 2. And she was like, what's a life death? I said life death a lot. Because
what's a life death?
Because because here's the trick about that puzzle, by the way, in case anyone ever gets it. There's two tricks. One, some freaking weird issue of Legion Quest is on there twice.
Oh, that's weird.
So it confuses you because the pieces are obviously cut differently. So you'll think you have one thing, but it's a different one.
Okay.
Two, about 50% of the art is Chris Claremont, John Byrne, 80s comic. So that's hard to differentiate. And then the rest of it is more differentiated art styles. It's very easy to say this goes here, this goes here, this goes here. So the trick is to do all those and then work on the Claremont stuff. The other thing, this is the last thing I'll say. Whoever put this together was a real X-Men head because there's some supernovas in that puzzle.
That's great.
There's some New Mutants, but not a lot of 80s New Mutants. There is the New Mutants Academy X run,
Oh,
like
wow.
the run before Academy X
Yeah.
on
All
there.
right.
Like it's a
Deep cuts.
weird. It is. Somebody was told who's doing this puzzle, and someone's like, "I love X-Men. Let me do it. Let me do it. Let me do this one, boss." Love that for them.
Who's
'Cause
Jordan?
it was not someone picking just random issues.
Yeah. Well, that's good. And I'm glad you guys had a fun time putting that together. Now, a character not having fun is Rachel. So this issue does start with a future flashback to Rachel's future. And,
Very lost like, yes.
Rachel is remembering back to a time when she was used in this very location as a hound to hunt down mutants. And there's a very specific panel that ties into our theme this week. Claremont is forecasting the horrors of this future by showcasing that the Twin Towers have been destroyed. And there is a flaming hole where they used to be. Frankly, there's no other way to put it, really.
Folks, if you weren't alive and you want to know about like the idea that that's what the bad future looks like for people, that's what it was. And by the way, the bad future kind of happened. So for a lot of folks, it is very weird to look at this stuff and be like, okay, yeah, we're just vibing here. We're living.
It's
doing
very
our
eerie.
thing.
It's very eerie when an author tells you that, like, this is the sign that you're in the apocalyptic, future.
Oh,
and
Bud,
yeah.
as an evangelical child,
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
if Left Behind wasn't the hottest thing in the world before 2001, tell you what, that's
Sales
when
spiking.
I believe that's when The Mark comes out. That's when Carpathia comes out. Like that's when it is at its peak.
Now, the bulk of this issue, though, is not about that flashback. So while we're getting that as, sort of like set dressing for why Rachel is so traumatized, this issue centers around the fact that Rachel and Magma both have vendettas against Celine, who is trying to get her claws into the Hellfire Club and become the new Black Queen. So they go in disguise as maids at the Hellfire Club, and then
Very funny that Claremont's putting his trauma people into maid outfits. Like,
yeah, it's weird that they're both kids and they're going undercover in a sex
gotta
club.
love Chris Claremont so much.
It's okay.
Not saying that he is flawless.
And the two of them fight Celine the best they possibly can until the
Which is
X-Men,
poorly, by the way. I want to be
Yeah.
so clear. They are
Yeah.
deeply unprepared for this.
the X-Men do have to bail them out. Rachel gets a really I don't like this costume. It's like a one-piece bathing suit with like thigh-high red boots and a grifter mask. It's or a band. I don't know, what is she wearing? Like kind of like a face mask.
No, it's like who's the purple ninja from Mortal Kombat with the weird teeth so she covers her face?
Oh, no, I don't know who that is. I know who you're talking about. Like I can picture this character in my mind, but I don't know what her name is.
Yeah, I was a Tekken guy, not a Mortal Kombat guy.
Yeah, you've told us. We know
if you type in purple ninja, it just comes up with Rain, who is one of the guys who looks like Sub-Zero. So I mean,
if you are a Celine fan, you're going to like this issue of comics because Celine gets to chew a lot of scenery. Literally, she uses her like
it's Melina, by the way.
It's what?
Melina. It's Melina from Mortal Kombat. For all you combat with the K heads out there.
Celine even uses her, like matter transforming skills to, grab people with fists of rock. But the X-Men are able to overpower her pretty quickly and exit stage left because Sebastian Shaw doesn't want anything to do with anybody.
She's a clone?
Who's
Melina is a hybrid mutant clone of Kitana, created in Shang-Tsu's flesh pits at the behest of Shao Kahn.
So is the character you're actually talking about named Katana?
No, Katana, which is not spelled with K-A. She's palette swap. She's the blue palette swap version.
Oh, so the original is named.
She has a fan. She's the one with a fan. She's not the one with the teeth.
I'm taking a wild guess that this Mortal Kombat diversion is because you don't love this issue.
I got nothing on this issue. I mean, honestly, you're throwing in again. I want to be clear. I gave her some slander. Come to love Rachel Summers.
Mhm.
She's great. My wife asked me the other day, this is not a joke. She's like, is Rachel Gray an X-Men? I know about Rachel Summers. I've heard that. Is Rachel Gray a different X-Men? I said, babe, we don't have time. We don't have the time to unpack this. I'm working right now.
Did you let her know they're the same person?
She stopped being interested about 5 seconds into me explaining. She's
Love
like,
it.
actually,
Great.
okay, you could have just said yes.
Yes. The answer is yes.
I love that my wife has no interest in X-Men. It's honestly one of my favorite things. Do you think she learned anything doing that puzzle? Absolutely not.
That's perfectly fine. I think most normal people shouldn't.
I explained so many jokes to her. She did not care.
I go back to these issues with a newfound respect for what Claremont was trying to do with the narrative.
Yeah.
And I do find Rachel's story to be a much more interesting one in isolation and going back to these and not really worrying so much about what my pals, the rest of the X-Men, were up to. That said, I don't know if this is the strongest issue. You know, I think JR and Leoloa are doing a very nice job with the artwork, but especially by pairing her with Magma, like it's hard to really get invested in Magma's vendetta against Selene. I got nothing on Nova Roma, you know?
Yeah, it asks us to care about Nova Roma, and we're not doing that. That's one thing. That's one thing I think we have been pretty clear about.
Yeah.
On this podcast is we're not going to care about Nova Roma.
I think if I'm looking around, we've got like at 542 is Freedom is a 4-letter word, which is 206. That's a better comic than this.
Yes, it is.
This certainly is not as bad as Sabotage.
It's not as bad as Sabotage. Where is the Murder Grandpas?
Oh, good one.
That's like the same vibe. It's the Claremont Romita still trying to figure out what the book's going to be vibe. It's not bad, but it's also not great.
Why can't I find that? They're on here, right?
We've absolutely talked about.
Why is this not labeled as Murder Grandpas?
Because that's gimmick infringement on Jay and Miles, and I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
We called it by its actual name, but you and me both know what we're talking about when we say the Murder Grandpas one. We could just look up the issue number because there's got to be only one of those, but there ain't no way we remember what issue number that is.
I'm looking down the list. I'm trying to figure this out because I suspect it's lower than that. So as I go down,
207 and 209 Ghosts.
Oh,
that's at 663 or 633.
There you go. See, I didn't get that far down. This is worse than that. No?
Yeah. I mean, it's.
Oh, Murder Grandpas is at 656.
Oh, wait. Which one's Ghosts?
Old Soldiers.
Which one's Ghosts?
Ghosts are.
Claremont, name your things. Oh, wait. What is that one?
Isn't Ghosts around?
No, that's the one where Rachel goes crazy and Wolverine has to stab her.
Yeah.
And they fight Nimrod. Okay, yeah.
But Old Soldiers is down at 656. I think this is worse than that.
We are right there. Man, you can tell we do not care for this exact moment in X-Men.
No, but this is better than at 66. Oh, yeah. This is better than 664, the Jim Lee Mojo stuff, I think.
This is better than the first X-Men comic by Neil Adams. Mm-hmm. Uncanny 262 is in 263 is that's the Mad Report. No, this is exactly as good as that time that Jean got tentacle arms.
Oh, yeah. Now, why
This
don't
is
we have
between those
that?
two
Look,
stories.
I'm typing into that. Gene tentacle arms.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, we need that.
Yeah,
All right,
this
so
goes at the new 657.
new 657, Uncanny X-Men 189. Two girls out to have fun.
I
And
will say, in
yes,
this issue, I get why people think Celine's a hoot. It's not my vibe.
yeah. For this last one, we will actually not be seeing very much of our X-Men friends. We are going to see a full drawn out story of one of their Silver Age villains, however. And that is Ahmed Abdul, the Living Pharaoh, aka the Living Monolith. We are talking about Marvel graphic novel 17, Revenge of the Living Monolith. This is
Hey, did you know? Hold the phone.
Yes.
Did you know that he has a new name now?
I looked this up right before we started recording, and I was wondering if you were going to bring this up.
Steven Orlando just this week.
Yep.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Never mind. I guess I'm reading Astonishing Avengers Infinity comic after this.
This literally just happened on September 5th that he has brought back the Living Monolith as the Living Testament. I love that Steve I love that he's like, I gotta pluck. I gotta find.
I love that
things out of obscurity, you know?
I love that he loves the way that I love.
Yes.
I think that's important. Here's the thing. I know his name's always been Ahmet Abdul.
Yes.
I always thought he was just some old white guy that was super into pharaohs. Well, I didn't realize he was a Egyptian man for some reason.
Is he though?
Yeah, I mean his name's Ahmet Abdul. He's an Egyptian.
Okay, I want to get into this a little bit though.
If you're an expat living in Egypt, you don't give your fully European son the name Ahmet Abdul. You give him the name Jeff Smith. Like you don't. He's just a light-skinned Egyptian man, which is normal and regular. But again, cultural biases is going to make me see this Silver Age guy with a gimmick and not think, oh yeah, this is just his culture. It's going to make me think he's doing a Silver Age gimmick like King Tut on the Batman cartoon movie. I said cartoon. It's spiritually a cartoon. It is a live action TV show.
I am honestly not clear about this, but it's mainly because of the artwork. And I didn't do credits here. So let me just make sure everybody knows this was written mainly by Dave Michelini and co-written by Jim Owsley, penciled very nicely by Mark Silvestri and inked by like an army of like 6 or 8 inkers. And then again, colored by another like 12 people,
just whoever could get the pages,
including pages painted by Charles Vess. I will say, I was not expecting this book to look as nice as it did. And
it looked really good.
You know, those old Marvel graphic novels, they look pretty good. Like not all of them, you know, you get an Aladdin effect here and there, but like, God, this looks nice.
So what this is Dave Michelini wanting to do a 50s pulp monster destroys city movie. Yes. So you get the cover. And the cover I had not seen before for some reason. It just had never come across me. What you get is the Living Monolith, who, again, picture a cartoon pharaoh. That's what he looks like.
It's a big stone cartoon pharaoh who's like
World Trade Center size tall.
Yes.
Just delivering a really strong left hook to Tower 2. Like, absolutely pummeling that thing. As people run in fear.
There's no other way to put it. That is exactly what's happening.
If you edited out the Living Monolith from this image, it would look like a recreation of 9/11. Like, that's just what it would look like.
Yeah, it's kind of tough. This panel does appear in a much smaller version inside the book. And when you look at the actual scene where he's smashing through buildings, because he's coming through Manhattan, he's the living monolith, he's really upset, he's going to break lots of stuff. It's a little more unclear that it is the Twin Towers.
They aren't going out of their way to destroy the Twin Towers. In the comic, they do need a splashy image, and the Statue of Liberty is out in the bay.
Yes. So wild choice to do this on the cover. It's not that he doesn't do it in the book. He does, but it's not as noticeable.
He's doing a Godzilla. He's doing a Godzilla thing in the book. That's what he's doing. He's crushing everything, going, oh no, there goes Tokyo.
Yeah.
That's what's happening in the book.
So this is an interesting graphic novel because admittedly from the note on the inside cover, this was already decided internally that it was a bad idea for a Marvel graphic novel. Did you read this note that's on the inside cover? Yeah, it's hilarious. And they're basically like, well, and then Mark started drawing it and everybody was like, ooh, that looks good. Can you show us some more? And it's like, well, yeah, if Mark Silvestri's drawing it, it's going to look good. Of course it's going to look good.
You could have had Mark Silvestri draw anything.
That doesn't mean that doing a graphic novel length story about a radicalized Egyptian coming to do terrorism on New York City is a good idea. I don't know.
Are you telling me that perhaps the radicalized Egyptian man destroying the World Trade Centers is more uncomfortable than Sabotage?
I think what makes it more interesting contextually is that the character is so obsessed with his Egyptian heritage and nationalism. And when he arrives at New York City as the living monolith, he sneaks into the country in a plane.
Yeah, and again, how else are you gonna get there? I get it, but boy, you'll want to talk
about choice. It is a choice. The police are standing by watching this plane and wondering if, because the plane is from Egypt, if it might be containing terrorists. So the book is already riding on some really racist overtones. And then the book is like, oh, nope, that's exactly what's happening.
I will give it this to the book. The book does make a valiant effort of trying to give Ahmet Abdul some level of characterization. They try and give him some motivation about how everyone made fun of him for being a weird little nerd. I'm giving them. I see the vision. I see what they're trying to do here.
It's so funny to me that the way that David structures this story is that as a child, like an elementary school child, Ahmed is bullied and really put in his place for claiming to be related to the pharaohs, right?
The pharaohs who were, of course, not just humans, but mutants.
Right. They're mutants who were bestowed by powers from the cosmos. Okay.
The Egyptian mutant, King Tut.
Sure. He then later, after he's arrested as the living pharaoh, brings the bully back to his base, only to allow the bully to bully him as an adult into killing his own daughter. Jesus Christ.
That does happen in this comic.
What is going on in this comic book? It's crazy.
Okay, look, I'm not going to call this comic good. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. And I think in a different context, in a different story, it is a bold choice for your villain to prove that they're a villain by killing the one person they love. Because what we get, Ahmet Abdul, we're not saying he was just bullied. He gets a Magneto. He gets exactly beat for beat a Magneto's daughter moment.
Yes.
Magneto's family dies and all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. That's exactly what happens. I was thinking the whole time, that's an interesting parallel to draw because Claremont has already written the classic stuff by this point, or if he had he written the classic stuff by 85 with Magneto? And
Probably, well, he's getting into it.
so it's running around the same time. Regardless, it is that exact same, at minimum, they're doing the same beat with both characters. But then immediately he's like, no, I'm super evil. Literally hit the big red button that says kill my daughter.
Yeah. Actually, this is from 85. Classic X-Men doesn't start for another year.
So he does hit the big red button that says kill my daughter.
He certainly does. He certainly does. So we get this, the whole second part of this is that, and we're kind of mixing in with actual Marvel continuity, right? Like, you know, you get little blips and blurbs of like the Silver Age Living Pharaoh stuff. We know that the Living Monolith has been around before, but we're fudging that a little bit so that he can go to New York, he can Godzilla, and he can learn that human beings actually can care for each other, Zach. They can have empathy for each other. And so
when Captain America gives him a good speech.
Yeah, he tries several times. And it only works like the third time. And the Living Monolith decides, well, there's only one thing for me to do, and that's to go become the living planet, and which we already have. We have Ego out there, but
we already have a living planet. He goes into space.
He goes into space.
He rides Mjolnir into space where he can do no harm.
Yep.
And becomes another living planet. Again, they already have one. It's weird, weird to do a second one here. And after that, it's just like, okay, New York got destroyed. We just did a monster story. That's it. Now, I will say the one thing I found really funny is that the Living Monolith is like, Captain America, I'm not going to listen to your speech to me. You're just going to betray me because you're trying to stop me from destroying the city out of rage. Because this city killed my daughter, even though I hit the big red button.
No, he definitely killed his own daughter.
Very actively pressed the button out of spite for one dude.
Yep.
Now, to be fair, all of the soldiers around Captain America do immediately turn on him when Captain America has him distracted. And then Captain America does, in fact, think that that's a good idea and later distracts him again so that She-Hulk can zap him with electricity from the ground.
Yeah, She-Hulk has a pretty major part in this story. When she popped up as part of the Fantastic Four, I was like, oh, okay, she'll just be here for a panel or two. You know, nobody ever centers her. And she was in the story quite a bit. I was happy to see that.
Now, here's what I think is a little interesting bit of X-Men continuity on this.
Are you looking up what I'm trying to find right now because I missed it? Please tell me what you're going to say.
About how there's a flashback page of Ahmet Abdul being recruited for the cult of the Living Pharaoh by some guy that turns out to be Apocalypse. And that was the intention.
So is he named here or what?
No, he's just some dude.
Yeah, because the wiki likes to say that this is Apocalypse's first appearance. And I was like, I don't know about that.
It's not, but if you go back to the 12, there is definitely a thing where Apocalypse is like, and I set the Living Pharaoh on his path to do some stuff.
Totally forgot that the Living Monolith comes back in the 12. Also, Zach, happy to report, Anna and I beat X-Men Legends 2 to get to Apocalypse. Who do we have to fight? The Living Monolith. You
do have to fight the Living Monolith. Does he have a nasty left hook?
I don't know. Sure.
Maybe.
He needed sunlight, so you had to keep stepping on these things to raise mirrors so that you could beat him up.
That sounds right. Hey, is it weird that in that game you have to fight the Stepford Cuckoos in the middle of a cult building?
Yeah, very weird.
The Madrox cult that just shows up in the middle of that video game is buck wild. I get
they're just throwing stuff in there. The Magi are in there, you know, it's whatever.
Why I don't know. That game that game's so good.
Allusions to Apocalypse aside, I think this is a very, well rendered story. I actually did, for the most part, enjoy it.
I would never recommend this story. And I definitely, if someone said, hey, this is a pretty problematic story, I'd say,
Yeah.
Not disagreeing on that front even a little bit.
No.
I understand what they were going for, and I think Mark Silvestri is doing a heck of a job.
I will say the only real like focused reason that you might want to check this out is, this is still pretty early in Silvestri's career. It's before he does his X-Men run, and book looks gorgeous.
Book
It's
does
a,
look
it's a
great.
host of different inkers and colorists. It looks great. So, I don't think this is as bad as Sabotage.
It's not.
Don't think it's as vital as or as good as Uncanny 189.
Yeah, it's definitely between those two. How do you feel about it compared to Spellbound, number 4?
Oh, I liked Spellbound more than that.
Spellbound's better. I agree.
Yeah.
Is this better or worse than Wildcats X-Men? Worse. This is worse than Wildcats
It's
X-Men.
worse. That at least has that beautiful Travis Charest episode, and Grifter steals the genetic DNA of Jean by kissing her to give Sinister.
Those first 2 issues of Wildcats X-Men kind of rule.
Yeah. But I know we don't like it. I know there are some advocates for it. I think we're kind of in the same ballpark as the Kulan Goth issues which do happen right after that. Rachel,
I hate the Kulan Goth stuff. I really do. I don't
care
for it one bit.
Like, I feel like we're in the right realm here. Like the
Wolverine Reign of Terra is at 825.
Yeah.
That's the second one, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's got Andy Kubert art.
I think that one's better than this, but I think that's like a weirdly comparable one.
Okay.
This is better than Cyberforce X-Men, though, at 828.
Yeah. I would say it's not as problematic as the Incredible Hulk X Factor crossover War and Peace.
No.
So I would actually put this
about the
above
Operation Desert Storm.
What? Yeah, that one's rough.
That one. If you think that anti-Islamic racism just kind of popped up out of nowhere,
nope.
No, go read that Peter David comic.
All right, so our new 827 is Revenge of the Living Monolith, which is the 17th Marvel graphic novel. And Zach, I have to thank Robert for giving us this idea, because I do think that despite how this could have gone, that was a pretty interesting conversation.
If you want to be like Robert, you can go over to patreon.com/Battle of the Atom. Reach deep down into your hearts and pocketbooks and toss a couple of coins into our coffers. At the $5 a month level, you get to do an episode based around one of your suggestions. And by you get to do an episode, I mean, we do the episode. You give us a suggestion. I like to think that if you're willing to give us $5 of your US dollars a month, you've listened to the podcast and understand the gimmick.
It's a great gimmick.
Adam, what are you up to?
Same stuff. Check out Comics XF. You can follow on social, Adam Rec on Instagram and Blue Sky. And Zach, I don't think we know what we're doing next time, right?
It'll be a mystery.
It'll be a mystery. All right.
It'll be a mystery for everyone. But until then, folks, this has been Battle of the Atom, and we hope you survived the experience.
Get it!